So welcome everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is David. I'm from Spark Niagara, the Niagara Falls Ryerson Innovation Hub. And we've been doing these webinars every week at 1 p.m. on various topics that we think are important to the community as a whole. Today, I'm very excited to welcome Nicole Smith. She's the founder of UR Worth More Ministries, and she's also one of our Spark Niagara team members. So Nicole's going to talk about a very important topic, and that is how to keep your mental health strong for not just you, but others around you and your family while working from home and remotely during this time. So Nicole, I'm very excited to welcome you. And one last note, we want to thank our partners at the Niagara Falls Small Business Enterprise Center and the Niagara Falls Chamber of Commerce, who we've been having these webinars in partnership with. So Nicole, thank you so much for doing this webinar. The floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Dave. It's my pleasure to be doing this, and I'm really excited about today's topic. It's a passion of mine. So I'm going to just share my screen so that everybody can see the great slideshow that I created. And I'm going to put, whoops, I'm going to make this a little smaller because, okay. So I'm usually the host of these things, so it's kind of interesting to be on the flip side and to be actually doing it. So that's going to be interestingly fun for me. But I am so happy and excited to be doing this with you. So as Dave said, whoops, there we go. My name is Nicole Smith, and I'm the founder of UR Worth More Ministries. Now, UR Worth More Ministries was actually inspired by Heart of Concern for teen suicide and teens who self-harm. And we began as an annual event in 2012. So we would bring in bands and speakers, and I would use some of our local youth, and they would do skits and dances and music, and we would communicate in a variety of creative ways, this concept and idea of hope and value. And so we did that for a few years. But in 2019, we just felt that we wanted to do something more. So we expanded what we do, and we now provide, we equip and educate people, specifically influencers and leaders, but in the area of suicide prevention, suicide intervention. So we provide workshops on that. And we, of course, continue to provide the events and conferences for youth, speaking message of hope and value, specifically with regards to God's promise of hope and a future. And so, yes, we are faith-based as an organization, but the information that I'm sharing with you today is very broad-based, is very general, and the training that we provide with regards to suicide intervention and prevention is the same thing. It's very broad-based and general. So, so I'm very excited. So why do this workshop? Well, it's been, 7.5 weeks, I guess now, of this time of isolation. And it's important that we are mindful of our own mental health as well as the mental health of those around us. We've been, a lot of us have been in our homes. We've been working from home. We are definitely told, don't go too far, grocery store, pharmacy, that's it. And so, people can start to feel a little antsy, and we can begin to start feeling kind of like this. And that is a perfect picture. That's my daughter's cat, actually. But that's how we can feel. It's just, I can't take this anymore. And so because of that, it's important for us to know that when we're there, and it's important for us to understand when people around us are at that place, and how do we move beyond that? Because that's what this is all about, is trying not to get there, but if we're there, how to get beyond that so that we can be okay. So being mindful of our own mental health will help us, of course, better handle our days and also better handle those around us. Because what we have to remember is that we loved our children and our spouses and partners before we got locked in with them. And of course, the lock-in will not last forever, and there's life beyond coronavirus, and we want to get to the other side of this. It's paramount that we pay close attention to our mental health and the mental health of those around us. Now, there was a news article that came out, I believe it was Monday, and it talked about an Angus report that was done recently, reporting on people's mental health since the pandemic. And I've taken a clip, too far. I'm missing one. Oh no, there it is. Sorry. So this Angus Reid poll came out, and this is from that article. And as you can see here, what they're showing us is that 26% of people are hardest hit in their mental health state. 24% are mentally struggling, so they're acknowledging that they're struggling, and 16% are financially struggling, and then 34% are managing okay. So in looking at this, what this says is that most people are struggling on one level or another, with 50% being mental health related. So this just shows us that, yes, people are doing the best they can, but they are having a hard time dealing with what's going on. Now, the other thing that I found interesting is that, why do we keep doing that? There we go. Is that Crisis Service Canada, which is our national crisis line, has reported that they have been receiving 30 to 50% more calls now than they did before this whole thing started. So these two slides just go to show you that it is super important that we are aware where we are at in our minds and in our hearts, and where people around us are at, because everybody is dealing with what this means, and people are struggling. Now, before I go any further, there is a very important disclaimer that I would really like to make, and it is this: I am not a counselor and I'm not a psychiatrist. What I am is I'm a seasoned leader. I have led people for many years, from youth groups to Bible studies. I have a background in events, so I've done large events, small events. I've worked with volunteers. I've been their coordinator. I've done stage managing, tech production. I've given presentations. So I have worked with people for probably 30 years. I'm also a licensed minister. I am Safe Talk and Assist trained, and I am an assist trainer. And what assist is, it's applied suicide intervention skills training. It's a mouthful. That's why we say assist. But what it is in a nutshell is it's suicide first aid. And these are the types of workshops that we provide through UR Worth More to be able to help people to help people. So I am coming to you from this kind of a background. So I am, what I'm going to share today is based on, a lot of research that I've done, from conversations that I've had with experts, and from personal experience. And so, I just wanted to make that known. And so, here we go. We're going to move forward. So how do we keep check on our own mental health? Well, there's a lot of thoughts and a lot of techniques that exist. And, based on your personality type, on your experience, on your age, on your spiritual position, all of these have some form of merit. Now, the other thing is that there's also a lot of credible resources, both on the COVID-19 and on mental health. Now, I say credible because there's also a lot of information out there that's just floating around, and it's easy to get some misinformation. So it's very important to make sure you tap into what's credible out there. So tap into resources from credible sources. So I've listed here a bunch of links to credible resources, and Nathan is going to make those available in the chat box if you want to just, click on them and save them for yourselves to check out later. But, you know, the Canadian Association of Mental Health is definitely a good resource. The World Health Organization is obviously a good resource. And I've added two really cool links there. One is specifically for adults, and it's with regards to coping with stress. And it's just a one-pager. It's actually something you can print and post on your fridge. Or if you are at work, post it, you know, at your desk or whatever. And the next one is the link to handouts for children. And this one's really good because it's for helping children cope with stress. And if you're a parent, you know that your kids are having a hard time with this whole idea of not being able to hang out with their friends, not being able to, you know, play at the park, all that stuff. So these two are really great one-pagers for you to just have. So I highly recommend you print those two. Other sources are Mood Disorders of Canada. That link goes to some resources there that is great. The Mental Health Commission of Canada, of course, and the Canadian Association for Suicide Prevention also has some great resources. So I highly recommend for you to just take those links and to tap into that. That's there. Now, the other link that I have here is for crisis lines. And these are national crisis lines. And if you go there, it'll drill down to provincial and the whole bit. I highly recommend that you just take that and keep it for yourself in case you need it or somebody that you love or you know needs it. So keep those links all to yourself and you utilize those things for sure. The truth is that, you know, these are trying times for everybody, and we're all in the same boat and we're all trying to cope. And so the more equipped we are, the better it is. So the information I am about to share with you is not new. I'm sure you've heard about some of it, all of it, but the fact is a reminder is always good because sometimes we forget. The other thing is some of these techniques I have done myself, or I know that they have worked on other people. So it's not exhaustive, but it's a good starting point. So the first thing I'd like to really do is to just tell you to cut yourself a break. Cut yourself a break. This is unique and challenging times for everybody. These are new territories, uncharted courses for everybody involved. So there's no expectation for you to do this on your own, and there's no expectations for you to do it perfectly. We are all trying to maneuver what this is. So we are in this together, which is, you know, a big hashtag that's been going around, but it truly is the truth. We are in this together. Everybody's in the same boat. And here's something. Some people on this boat have some very definitive opinions on what's going on how government's handling, on, you know, whatever theories and all that kind of thing. My advice right off the bat is if somebody's opinion stresses you out, it's a big boat, move to another level, go somewhere else, get off that Lido deck and, you know, go to the dining room if you have to. But, you know, separate yourself from information and that just stresses you out, and just walk away. So that's my first piece of advice. Just cut yourself a break. This would be a Kit Kat bar moment, really. So most of us are working from home. So if you're working from home, my advice is to treat your workday like a workday. Right? So what this means is essentially go to bed at the same time you normally would before you were working from home, get up at the same time you normally would, do the same morning routine, right? Get up, have breakfast, shower, brush your teeth, brush your hair, get dressed. I know doing stuff in pajamas is nice and comfy, but it doesn't help our minds to shift from I'm at home to I'm working. So doing all these things help you to shift mentally from a state of I'm at home to a state of I am now going to, you know, be working from, you know, if you have kids, I know that this adds a whole different dynamic, But kids are also accustomed to some form of routine, right? Some of your kids, most, well, I don't know if most of, but some kids, they either go to daycare or they normally go to school. And within those environments, they also have a schedule. And so try to work their day in a schedule so that they can distinguish between being at home and a work day, like weekend work day kind of a thing, right? And if you're not working right now, if you're just at home, same thing. Create some form of regular routine that will distinguish from weekend and weekday. And this will help when, this whole pandemic passes. It'll help you, transition back into work life. And it also helps with your mind to be able to understand that there is order in the midst of this chaos. And so that makes you, better able to decipher between the two of those things. So as I said, treat weekends like your weekends, right? So, whatever that looks like for you guys, if it's Pancake Saturday, great. Pancake Sunday, fantastic. Family time together, do whatever you do on the weekend. And it helps to also maintain this concept of normalcy, and I use that loosely, between Monday to Friday and Saturday and Sunday. For us in our home, Friday night is pizza night. And so we always have pizza on Friday nights. And that helps me to disengage my mind from, working and moving into the weekend. So do what you need to do to be able to treat the two differently. Now, do you have to be rigid about this? No, life happens, right? Like during the weekday, if, a child suddenly spills milk all over the place because they decided they wanted to try and help themselves because you're busy and they're trying to be a big boy or a big girl, that's fine, or if they need a mommy moment, then that's fine. Of course, be flexible. These are, as I said, unprecedented times, but try as best as you can to try and stick to some form of a routine. Now, this next point is important. Be mindful of your diet. So, we on the weekend watched a movie, and I'm trying to remember what it's called right now. Oh my goodness. It's about a little robot. Oh gosh. Anyways, I can't remember what it's called. It's a Disney Pixar movie.
Is it the one with the IE or something like that?
Yes, WALL-E. Thank you. Yeah. WALL-E was playing on the weekend. I hadn't seen WALL-E. And what's really interesting in WALL-E is that it's kind of describing what we're experiencing-ish, in the sense that people are needing to do a lot of stuff on social media. They're plugged in that way. But in WALL-E, people are just, not active, and they're just, riding around in these floating little seats. And so they're not, and they drink food, and they're severely overweight, right? From lack of activity, from lack of eating the right stuff, from lack of motivation. So I saw that and I went, oh my goodness, that could be, where we could end up. So be mindful of your diet. When you look at these two, I mean, personally, I love chips. I love popcorn. I love popcorn with chocolate, just saying. I love all that stuff. But truth is that I can't have that 7 days a week as much as I want to. I need to be eating the good stuff, the fruits, the vegetables, proper proteins, cooked properly. And so I would advise the same thing for you guys to consider, right? Chips and stuff on the weekends. Again, it's that concept. Treat weekends like weekends, weekday like weekdays. And so separate the two, and do that with your diet as well. In this vein, at the same time, I've read recently that there are people who are consuming more alcohol than they did before. I don't know the specifics, obviously, and I haven't really researched it, but I would say that it's very possible people, of course, because they're home, they're maybe having a little more wine or beer than they normally would. They're drinking during the week, which they normally would not. So again, I would just say, please treat weekends like weekends, weekdays like weekdays, and try to keep those two things as separate as possible. Because when we go back, it just makes the transition back a whole lot easier when you do that. The other thing that's super important, of course, is physical activities, right? Going for a walk, of course, following the social distancing rules. That's why I walk early in the morning. There's nobody out there. But go for a walk, go for a jog, go for a bike ride. Do stretches in your home, do whatever you need. Now, if you're limited, for example, if you're quarantined, my family and I experienced being quarantined for a little bit because my husband ended up with a really bad cold. He tested negative, but they wanted him to test positive. Let me say that again. They wanted to test him. And so we needed to stay quarantined until the test results. So they were negative. So whoop, whoop. But during that time, I couldn't go for my walk. So I walked my backyard. So I, just went around in my backyard just to get some activity in and get some fresh air. So do that. If you're in an apartment building, go up and down the stairwell stairs. Grab your iPod, put your ears in, sing loud. They echo. It's great. Have fun with it. But get the physical activity that you can. And then, of course, there's a whole whack of other options. You can, pick up a new hobby or pick up an old hobby that you completely forgot about. Get lost in a good book or in a great movie. If you're a spiritual person, pray, enjoy doing that kind of an activity, and get creative. Get creative in what you're doing, right? Treat your backyard like it's a park and have a picnic out there. Maybe not today because it's raining, but when it's nice. For parents, I've done this with my kids when they were much younger. Put their swimsuit on, fill your bathtub with water, and tell them they're going to the beach, quote unquote. Maybe barbecue some burgers beforehand and whatever, and just let them pull out those beach toys. Let them have at it in the bathtub in their swimsuits. They'll love it, right? Get your iPad and set it up on the dash in your car and watch a movie, like be at the drive-in, quote unquote, right? Learn a new hobby as a family. You never know. Husbands and wives, date nights are not necessarily completely dead. Get creative. Try to figure out, ways to date at home. And you can even make it a bit of a competition between husband and wife as who plans the best, funnest, stay at home or stuck at home date night. So just get really creative in what you're doing. The point is to keep your body and your mind and your soul active and engaged and making the best of this unusual situation for yourself and for everybody around you, right? Stay away from too much news, too much binge watching, and too much junk food, because those are all bad, right? News is good, but don't obsess about it. Binge watching once in a while can be fun, but don't make it an everyday thing. And of course, we talked about the junk food and that whole bit. So they're just not healthy for you. So just try to avoid those at excess, right? And it's about that. It's avoiding things excessively. So what happens if you are struggling with thoughts and emotions that just won't go away? Thoughts like fear, right? People are experiencing some real fears and anxiety, depression. And what if, you're starting to have thoughts of suicide, right? This is where staying connected is super important. Staying connected, talk to your friends, talk to family, talk to a mentor if you have one of those. Talk to your doctor. It's very possible that you need medication to help you with whatever's going on. Talk to a counselor. Learn some coping mechanisms that could help you, or reapply some former coping mechanisms that have worked for you in the past. I've included here an article, and Nathan's going to make that available for you in the chat box. This article just came out this week, It's tips to deal with stress and anxiety. It's called as week 7 of COVID, 19 measures. It is a really good article and it has some really great ideas. So please go ahead. It's a quick read too. It's not pages and pages either. So, click on that link and read that article. It'll help. Now, if you are a person with a history of struggling with some form of mental illness, it's super important for you to tap into the coping mechanisms that have worked for you before. And in some cases, depending on what that is, you may have to maybe adapt it a little bit to your current situation, but tap into what works and stick stick to it or hold on to that for sure. Okay. And then one final thing is, if you just, you've tried all these things and it's just not working, contact a crisis line. These people, they're frontline workers that are here to support you, to help you, to guide you, to get you connected with a resource that will help you. That is what they're there for. That is what they want to do. So please, again, so the second time I put up that link, so please, use that link, hold on to that link. Here in Niagara, of course, there's the Niagara Distress Center that you can tap into. Pathstone has a phone number. I think they deal mostly with children, so that's important. Kids Helpline, of course, when it comes to kids. But please, please, please tap into the help that you need. So up until now, we have spent a lot of time talking about ourselves. And I know there may be questions, and it wasn't said before, but I'm going to leave time for questions at the end. So if you have any, write them down. If you want to put them in the chat box, that's great. And we'll answer the questions later. So I've just spent a whole lot of time speaking about, our own, taking care of our own mental health and what that could look like. But the fact is that we have people that are around us, whether they're living with us or if you're a person that's still going to work, you have people at work with you. So how do we help them? Because, how do we make sure that their mental health is what it needs to be, right? It's, in my opinion, and this is just me, it's as important for us to be mindful of their mental health as it is for us to be mindful of our own. Because as I said before, we are all in this together. And beyond this pandemic, we interact with people every day. And so having a heightened alert to how people are doing is important. We are in the habit to go, hey, how's it going? But it's a passing comment. It's, we don't truly want to know. We're just asking it out of courtesy. We need to change that way of thinking and change that way of behaving to being sincere, because people sincerely want to let you know how they're doing. And I mean, if they're just great, they'll be honest about that. But if they're struggling, they may need to know that you're interested in hearing what's going on. With the governmental restrictions that have been set in place, the fact of the matter is that, people are more vulnerable now than they were before. And some people are actually surprised by their vulnerability because they always considered themselves such strong people, but this has rocked their world beyond a way that they ever thought possible. So, they're just trying to figure out what that means. And some people are just finding it hard to adjust the restrictions. They feel caged, they feel, all locked up, and they don't know how to handle that. And some people, they're afraid of relapses of previous mental health conditions because the restrictions are causing them to have to exhibit behaviors that they didn't have before. A perfect example is I read an article on a woman who had a habit of overwashing her hands because she was afraid of germs. And of course, through therapy and counseling, the whole bit, they broke her from that. Well, now we have to wash our hands all the time. And so for her, this is taking a major step backwards. And so now she's afraid of a relapse. And so it's how do I work within this whole, needing to do this without falling back into what I was dealing with before. So of course, she's tapped into the resources that she has, her support system, and they're working through that. But that's a reality for some people. And some people, they're just plain afraid. They're terrified, they're afraid, they just, they don't know what to do about this. And then some people are surprised to find out they actually have a mental health condition they didn't even know existed. So this is the reality of the world that we are living in, either personally or with those around us. So I'd like to suggest that we have a responsibility to check in on the mental health of everybody around us, to help them the best that we possibly can. So I am going to give you a list of signs to look for. Again, not exhaustive. This list is not my own. I took it from the Mayo Clinic, but it's pretty standard. Theirs was just so complete that I decided to use theirs. But, different articles and different resources will pretty much echo the same thoughts, the same ideas, the same signs, because although everybody is unique and each situation is unique and everybody deals with things uniquely, there are some standard behaviors and signs that exist pretty much across the board. So I'm just going to go through these with you. Oh, and what I wanted to also say is that when I do suicide intervention training, these signs, we call them invitations. And what that is, it's an opportunity to dig a little deeper, to explore, to have a conversation with people to really find out what's going on and what's triggering these signs. So the list is not exhaustive, but here we go. So things to look for: marked changes in personality, eating, or sleeping patterns. Now, for any of these, if there's a one-off, that's one thing. I mean, everybody has an off day, but I'm talking a prolonged period of time where you start seeing these patterns or these signs emerge. So, the first one, an inability to cope with problems or daily activities, like a complete shutdown of the person. Feeling of disconnection and withdrawal from normal activities. So they're just really separating themselves from people. Unusual or magical thinking. So that's basically an unrealistic view of the situation they're in or what's going on. Excessive anxiety. So that's, off the charts kind of a thing, anxious. Prolonged sadness, depression, or apathy. Thoughts or statements about suicide or harming others. Substance misuse, and I touched on that a little bit earlier when I was talking about, treat weekends like weekends, weekdays like weekdays, and try not to drink more than you normally would. Extreme mood swings, right? And ladies, I'm talking outside of what we experience on a monthly basis, of course. Excessive anger, hostility, or violent behavior. So you're talking, all out raging and that kind of a thing. So these are just a few of the signs that you could look for or see. These are if somebody might be having an off day, you don't know unless you're living with them that they're having an off day. So it's okay if you see this behavior or one of these behaviors to just check in and say, hey, how you doing? Is everything okay? And be genuine about that, of course. Allowing time. Don't do it if you're in a rush. If you do it, understand it may require you to stop and listen to that person's story, right? And this is, sorry, I've looking at my notes going, where am I? I apologize. But I'm exactly where I want it to be. It's all part of a conversation. And that's what it is sitting down, putting the time aside to have these conversations with people, and to not accept pat answers like fine, I'm fine. Anything with the word fine is not fine. Because what that is it's a surface answer, it's a pat answer, and it should be a trigger for you to dig in just a little bit deeper to find out, what's going on, to hear their stories, to hear their struggles. And I'm going to tell you right now that some of the things you may hear may not necessarily be pretty, and they may not be packaged in a nice little, box with a cute little bow. If they're angry or frustrated or anxious, it'll come out in some very unlovely ways. Just understand it's got nothing to do with you personally. It's them sharing their story. And so your job in this moment, and this is super important, is to just do active listening. Let them speak, hear their story, repeat back to them some of the things that you're hearing. And that'll do two things. It'll clarify, what you're hearing, and it helps them to process what they're saying, because, it's being echoed back to them. So it's like, oh, I didn't realize I was thinking that, or I didn't realize that's how, it was coming across. But it also lets them know that you really are listening, and you really are engaged, and you care. And that is paramount. That is huge, because up until this moment in time, they're feeling isolated. They're feeling like nobody cares, or they're feeling like, well, everybody else is in the same boat. I don't want to burden somebody. And it's just, it really helps them. What you don't want to do is give them advice. They're not looking for advice. They're looking to be heard. And so just listen, echo back, and go from there. Let them drive that boat. Let them drive that conversation, and see where it takes you. As I said, it's not always going to be pretty. It will be filled with pain sometimes, but it's worthwhile to keep somebody safe, and then to get them the help that they need. Now, sometimes people just need to be heard. They vent it out, they let it out, they cry it out, and then they're fine. And that's it. And then life goes on, and they're back to being themselves, and they just needed to offload it, and that's great. And you were there for that. But sometimes it's deeper than that. They need more help than you can personally offer. And that's okay. This is where you need to get them hooked into professional help, or somebody that's more experienced, that has more of the skill set that you don't, to get them the help that they need, so that you can ensure their safety, right? So what you want to do is create what's called a safe place for them, right? And this is not just for them, it's also for yourself, because depending on the situation, depending on what's going on, and I'm not just talking about people who necessarily have thoughts of suicide, I'm just talking overall, right? You need to always make sure that you are safe, because if something happens to you, it's not going to help anything, right? So make sure it's safe for you, and it's safe for them, right? And in your environment, you need to make sure that you remove anything that might be harmful to them or for you. And I'm not talking forceful. You're not wrestling anybody to the ground. We're not doing that kind. That's in movies, and it should not be happening in your living room. But, stuff like, drugs, alcohol, right? Any kind of weapon that may be hanging around, or, anything that may be harmful, right? You want to remove that from the environment. And if they need help, then, you call 911, or that crisis line. And again, that depends on the situation. If they need to go to the hospital and they're wild and out of control, call 911. Do not drive them in your vehicle, for your safety and for theirs, right? 911 is there to help. That's what they want to do. That's why they're there. So use them. Crisis lines are there to help. Again, as I said, right? So you need to get them in with, you know, somebody that they need. So crisis line, doctors, counselors, all that. The truth is that everybody is vulnerable right now, and at, you know, at some point in their life. And so everybody needs to take an active role in taking care of themselves and others. There is evidence that supports the fact that suicide rates will increase either during or post-pandemic. We already have seen that mental health is on the rise during this pandemic. So the fact is the more equipped you are, the more equipped I am, the more we can actually help those around us. So there is training that is available. Now, Safe Talk and Assist are two programs that are available. They're both workshops that need to be done face-to-face. Safe Talk is a 3.5-hour workshop that basically gives you some of the basics to suicide prevention, to be able to have that conversation, to get the person talking, and then to get them to somebody with more experience. Assist is a 2-day workshop, and that is where your suicide first aid comes in. It is more, it's more involved, it's more intense. It allows or teaches you to be able to take a person from, you know, admitting that they're thinking of having thoughts of suicide to creating an entire safety plan, and then helping them execute that safety plan, or handing them off and have the safety plan given to somebody who can help them through. Both of these workshops are great. I can provide assist training, and Safe Talk will be something I'll be able to provide later, but neither of them are available anywhere in this country or in the world because they need to be done face-to-face. And of course, we can't do that right now. But something that is available for you as a resource right now, if you're interested, is what's called Living Works Start. So Living Works is actually an organization out of Calgary that has created all of the training materials for Safe Talk, Assist, and Start. It's their program, and it's done worldwide. But Start is actually an online course that you can do. It's 90 minutes, it's $20, so it's not expensive. 90 minutes. It gives you the very basics to be able to have conversations with people. It's specific to suicide, but quite honestly, it teaches you the skill set to be able to have those conversations, to get people talking. So if you're looking for something and want to get, you know, some form of equipping right now, I would recommend that. The link is there. Nathan's going to put that, of course, in the chat box. And then if you want something greater and more, of course, Safe Talk and Assist, when we're able to do workshops again, will be available through UR Worth More, but they're also available through other organizations, you know, throughout this wonderful nation of ours. And I think that is all that I have. So here we go. So here's my contact information. My email, nicole@yourworthmore.com. Of course, I'm on Twitter, and so is UR Worth More. We are on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I did have a website, but it was severely outdated and looking old and tired, so we took that down. We're currently working on a brand new website that will be coming out soon, so I'm super excited about that. And so yes, so that is all about me, and that is all that I have. And so I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that we can have some Q&As face-to-face. So thank you very much, everybody. And that's it for me.
Thank you so much, Nicole. That was fantastic, and really appreciate you sharing all your knowledge.
Well, thank you.
So feel free, anyone, to please post any questions in the chat right here, and then Nicole will answer them accordingly.
Okay. People can also unmute themselves if they want to do that.
Nicole, where do you typically hold some of the workshops you host?
Well, typically I've been holding them at the Spark Niagara and NFRH buildings. And so, but these can be done anywhere, and I'm happy to hold them anywhere, of course. And they're open to anybody.
Awesome. I was going to ask, yeah, can you go into different organizations to provide it?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I'm very open to doing that. Typically for the workshops, well, for Assist, I need a minimum of 8 people. Assist is done with 2 trainers. So my co-trainer, she's kind of very cool. She has a background in corrections, and she does suicide prevention and intervention and mental health first aid for the correctional system here in Ontario. So she's a great resource and a great friend.
Great. And I see we have a question from Crystal regarding how long is the actual training for Assist and SAFE?
Okay, so Assist is 2 days, 2 full days. And it's, so they're about, 8-hour days or 7.5. The Safe Talk is about a 3.5-hour workshop. And 2 of them have 2 different goals, of course, in mind. Safe Talk is a 3.5-hour, but it's intended to equip you to be able to, talk to somebody, get them to, confide in you that they are thinking about suicide, and then getting them to somebody who is Assist trained or, professional help. Assist takes them right through to hearing their entire story, creating the SAFE plan, sometimes being involved in that SAFE plan as one of the key people in their lives to help them walk through this process of going from having thoughts of suicide to keeping safe for now.
Awesome. Any other questions? So next week, everyone, while we're just waiting if there's any other questions to come through, next Thursday at the same time at 1 p.m., we'll be having a webinar with the Intellectual Property Institute of Canada with a lawyer who's going to talk a little bit of intellectual property law and how it's changed during COVID and things to look out for. So that should be really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it'll be great.
Thank you for coming, Crystal. Thanks, Connie. Thanks, Jonathan. Okay, so I'll just, I guess, wrap it up then from here. So again, thank you to the Niagara Falls Small Business Enterprise and Dean and Michael for helping put these on, as well as the Niagara Falls Chamber of Commerce. These webinars have been put on by Spark Niagara, the Niagara Falls Ryerson Innovation Hub, and of course, Nicole Smith of UR Worth More. Thank you so much for doing an amazing webinar.
Well, you're very welcome. Thank you guys so much for listening.
And thanks to Nathan on controlling our IT.
Yes, fantastic. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Stay safe, everybody.
Stay safe, everyone.